Nexon manipulated their customers into thinking they had a chance at getting rare items to drop if they purchased cubes, when in reality, your chance of getting what you needed was 0.00001%. Stop buying microtransactions in games, please. Let's talk about this story right now. They have been sued for this practice, sued 11.6 billion won, that's 8.8 million US dollars. And basically what happened was they kept reducing your chance of getting the thing you needed from cubes in Maplestory, and they lied to you straight up and said these changes weren't happening. Now, Business Korea has a great write-up about this. It says Nexon manipulated item drop probability to 0.0. You see how many zeros are there? 0.00001%. And they were fined 11.6 billion won. North Korea, the operator of the online game Maplestory, is set to face a hefty fine of more than 10 billion won from the Korea Fair Trade Commission for selling game items with virtually zero chance of being won. Thank you, somebody, for doing something about this. I don't care if it's the FTC. I don't care if it's Korea. This practice is ridiculous. Consumers keep buying these things, and as long as they keep buying these things, they will continue being in games. I think there are tons of examples you can probably think of. The most recent controversy, I think, was surrounding Diablo Immortal, where you could simulate the roles of getting your chances of getting the specific item you needed online. And it was basically impossible. You would spend thousands of dollars. Somebody actually did something about practices like that, and I'm very, very happy. So Korea announced on January 3rd that it would impose a corrective order and a fine of 11.64 billion won, 8.83 million, on Nexon for unfairly altering the odds of its random item drops in a way that was disadvantageous to consumers, and for either failing to properly notify or falsely reporting these changes, violating the Electronic Commerce Act. This fine is the largest ever imposed for a case of Electronic Commerce Act violation, concluding an investigation that began 3 years ago. For some context, Nexon introduced a probability-based game called Cube in Maplestory in May of 2010. Now, I brought up a YouTube video just showing what they look like. Basically, there's these cubes that you spend currency on, you buy the currency, and then you have a chance of altering your weapon so that you can do more boss damage, say, or just enhance things, right? So you could purchase these for money, and there was basically no chance you would ever get what you needed. Cubes are items that enhance the equipment worn by game characters. When purchasing a cube, the type and nature of the item is determined only at the point of use, making it kind of a random draw. The issue lies in Nexon's alleged manipulation of these draw odds to near 0%. You never had a chance. You're throwing your money into the ether. You might as well have just burnt all your money if you spent money on these things. And I'm hoping a class action lawsuit is the result of this, and these practices go away. Like, how is FIFA still doing it? How is it that FIFA can still do it? It's crazy. It's a little crazy. Anyway, initially Nexon set equal chances for all options, but from September 2010, they altered the probability structure to make popular options less likely to appear. From August 2011 to March 2021, over a span of nearly 10 years, upgrade property options like Bo, increase in damage to boss monsters, and Bang, ignoring monster defense, were made impossible to obtain, yet this change was not disclosed. In fact, in August 2011, Nexon announced that there were no changes to the cube function, and it remains as before. So they straight up lied to their customers. It's crazy to me that this happened, that they just straight-faced lied. No, we didn't change anything, when they were actively reducing your chances of getting things. The KFTC stated the most important information in probability-based items is the odds as digital intangible goods. If the seller does not announce or falsely reports this information, consumers cannot be aware. They explained that Nexon's actions involved omitting or falsely reporting key information that could influence consumer decisions. Here's probably what's going to be a result of this, right? They're just going to put in super tiny print, like your chances are 0.000001, and then they're covered. If they would have disclosed it, then they probably would have been safe, but they didn't, and they lied about it. And that's the problem with these practices. I've said for years, like, I beg you not to, especially these microtransactions. Like, look, if you're buying a skin or something, that's sort of whatever. But if you're buying the loot boxes that you're basically pulling a slot machine, it's becoming problematic, because not only for the skins, but also for these practices, designers are being forced to come up with concepts for their games where they take cosmetics that we used to earn in all of our games and they put them in the store. Like, effort that used to go towards making a game ends up going into a store. And we know now that games cost like $200-300 million to make. So that is seen as a revenue source that is required to make sure that the games are created. If everybody stopped buying microtransactions, it's not going to happen, but the practice would likely go away, and they would come up with some hopefully healthier methodology instead of just straight up gambling. This is just, it's basically gambling. It's like the pachinko machines. It's pachinko, right? In Japan, with the little balls. Yeah, it's like the same thing. And it's really, really problematic. And I've talked about how it worries me because it influences design decisions, etc. Over 10 years, Nexon announced minor game changes 449 times, but never disclosed changes in probabilities that were disadvantageous to consumers. During this period, sales of cubes are estimated to have exceeded 550 billion won, accounting for 30% of Maplestory's total sales. 30% of their sales are this. Buying microtransactions perpetuates microtransactions. They get more and more problematic the longer we go on this insanity tour. They corrode games, and I hate them. I don't spend money on them. And it's really, really unfortunate that they did this. There was another article about this that I highlighted. The game giant was accused of changing the probability of randomized items for its hit titles of Maplestory and Bubble Fighter to the disadvantage of users multiple times from 2010 through 2021, and failed to notify the customers of the fact, in violation of the Electronic Commerce Consumer Protection Act. In August 2011, Nexon even made a false announcement about the modification, saying no changes to the item program had been made, according to the FTC. So the FTC is going after them too. My hope is that the result of all of this is there's sweeping changes to what you're allowed to do. The probability needs to be like 10% or something, if these are even allowed to continue. But this is a good thing that the FTC is getting involved. Like, the FTC is on the right case for once. Get rid of these. Force other monetization strategies. You have kids gambling in FIFA. Like, it's a huge problem, and I'm just glad to hear that maybe something will happen because of all this. Now, I've had a tab open for a long time because I thought this was a really inspiring story. But after reading about the Maplestory stuff, I'm a little less optimistic about this outgoing Nexon CEO who had some tough love for the gaming industry. So this is the CEO who was the CEO when all the Maplestory stuff was happening. Now, I don't know where Maplestory's developed. I didn't look into it, but Nexon, founded in South Korea and operating out of Japan, is a rising force in gaming, boasting not just extraordinary 20-year franchises like Maplestory, but now producing crossover hits like Dave the Diver and The Finals, whose studio Nexon bought in 2019. Now, The Finals, seems to be a really good game, but I do worry about all their other properties. And if they have any sort of lottery type system, do not play them. Never trust any game made by Nexon again to not lie to you. They're being sued for millions of dollars, billions of won. Like, just don't buy that stuff from this company. Never trust them again. 10 years they manipulated your chances and didn't tell you. Not that it would have mattered. I'm sure people would have bought them anyway, but are you really going to take that roll on the 0.00001% chance? Please don't. He ran corporate development at EA for 9 years, joined Nexon as CFO in 2010, and has been CEO for the last 10 years. He's exiting in March, saying it's time to pass the torch. He says, our industry is in deep trouble right now. I think because of throwing bodies at the problem of game development, Mahoney says. Yeah, or maybe it's because the monetization is just absolutely insane. And he talks about how nobody's happy. Here's the actual tweet where are customers happy? No, I go on YouTube and Reddit and see a lot of ticked off customers. Yeah, you know why? Because they're tired of getting nickel and dimed every time they turn on a frickin' video game. If you're not getting nickel and dime for your time, you're literally getting cheated out of your money by Nexon, the team behind Maplestory. So you want to know why you see ticked off people on YouTube? It's because of practices like that. But they don't care. Honestly, like, I can get as mad as I want. They don't care. You know why? Because everybody is going to buy them anyway. They could make it 0.000001 and people are still going to buy them. Are game developers happy? No, because they're forced to make microtransactions in their games. Think about it. Game developers got into our industry. They're highly talented, highly skilled people. They could have gone into banking and could have gotten paid a lot more at, I don't know, Slack or something in Menlo Park. But they went into the games industry because they love games. And what do they get asked to do? A glorified version of painting leaves on trees in Photoshop. Or worse, they get asked to make cubes in Maplestory. So like the CEO who was in charge while Maplestory was doing this is saying, oh yeah, it's definitely the working conditions where they have to paint leaves. No, I'm not. That's probably part of it. But part of it is CEOs that make them make bad games. So then talk about their bosses, the development directors. What are the development directors doing? They're managing teams of 500 to 1,000 people. So they're glorified HR managers. Is that fun for them? No, that's no fun for them. And oh, by the way, they need help from a lot of HR people to be able to manage teams that are that big. Can you imagine a worse group of people to get in the center of a development process than HR heads? I'd rather have my accountant, my tax accountant do that than an HR person. What? I'm all good with talking. You're worried about HR getting involved? What? Oh, because they're involved in the development process. Okay, I get it. But that's where we are as an industry. I mean, it's really hard to manage a team to 500 or 1,000 people. It's not like that's one person. Like, you have a person and then you have people below that and then you have people below that and the work gets distributed somewhat evenly. There's some study that like 10% of people do 90% of the work at any company. Like, that's just how it is. So, okay, so are CEOs happy? No. Again, guys like me, they get one or two mulligans, right? Your second $100 million bet that went south, everybody's going to be calling for your head inside and outside the company. So CEOs are not happy. So what do? They try and lower risk, which means we end up in red oceans with very similar projects. I'd be totally fine if we went through a massive reset and CEOs stop thinking about game development like that, honestly. This guy's on his way out. He's done in March. Sure. Super happy. Good. Put somebody in there that's willing to take two of those $100 million bets. Larian did it. Larian put everything on the line for game design, and I applaud them for it. Unfortunately, the rest of the industry is stuck in the rat race, for lack of a better term, chasing monetization structures to support these outlandishly expensive games that they're creating. $300 million, $200 million. Your games, I don't know why there was this narrative that every game needs to be 100 hours. Like at the top end, 40 hours is like a sweet spot. And I'm ready to move on to the next thing. People are getting fed up with these live service games and games as a service because they're recognized like, oh, this is just a job. You're just making me do a job, but I literally don't get anything. As a matter of fact, you just take more of my money. And I think people hit this point where they're waking up and they're realizing that, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's why there's tons of layoffs right now. That's why, profit margins are lower than they have been in the past. And in a way, I'm glad. I'm not glad about the layoffs. It's awful that people are getting laid off, but I am glad that companies are going to have to take a long, hard look at the successes that are happening and what are they doing right? What do you think they're doing right, chat? Or commenters, I should say. I'm not talking to anybody. Just losing my mind a little bit. They're just making games that they want to make. There's no worry about microtransactions like Elden Ring. Baldur's Gate comes to mind. The Legend of Zelda. It feels like those games are coming from a more pure place than a lot of the other properties out there. And I hope we get back to that place because the remakes are doing better than ever because people are really, really missing a time when things were more pure. It felt like games used to be made for pure reasons. And more, they're getting made for profit reasons. And that's really, really unfortunate. And that's why you shouldn't buy microtransactions, everybody. Anyway, I just want to talk about this Maplestory story, and it bugs me a lot. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. But to hear the CEO say, yeah, nobody's happy. There's a reason for that. It's because the creators are being hired into these mega firms, and then they're told, you have to design this way because it's the most profitable way to design a video game. They don't want to do that. They just want to fulfill their dream of making a game, right? CEOs are unhappy because they have to manage too many people, and HR has to be involved so you don't overwork your employees. I think that's a weird criticism. And that my read on it is, oh, we don't want HR involved. We just want to be able to do whatever we want. And it's like, I feel like HR is there to like protect the employees. Like, look at what happened in Activision. Could have used a little bit of HR over there. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Let me know what you think about it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you like these videos. This Maplestory thing ticked me off because it's just like, do you realize how low your chances of getting what you need in those loot boxes? It's so low and it's so manipulative and I hate it and everybody keeps buying them and there's nothing I can say to stop it. So that's why I don't make many of these videos anymore. The first video on this channel 8 years ago was like, hey, you need to stop buying microtransactions. For like 10 years of my career, I would ask questions about microtransactions. I just got tired. Oh, you know what the answer is? They like money. It's always the answer. And like, do you think they're looking out for you? No, they're not. Anyway, thank you so much to the members for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. If you want to become a member, click that join button. It's right below all these people who support the channel. Thank you so much right there. I'm going to get out of here. Check out this video where I react to Xbox stuff. The good old days. I'll see you soon. Bye for now, everybody.